The shuttle landed with a soft sound, nothing like the loud military ships people were used to seeing on the news. It rested on the open landing field outside the city, clean and smooth, shaped like a silver leaf. Cameras hovered in the air. Scientists, officials, and translators waited behind clear barriers. Humanity's first open civilian exchange with an alien species was supposed to be calm, organized, and predictable. It was none of those things. The shuttle door opened slowly, and a single figure stepped out. She was small, no taller than a human teenager. Her skin had a faint glow, like moonlight on water, shifting gently in color. Thin lines of light moved across her arms and neck, as if her body itself was breathing. She wore a simple garment, clearly not designed for beauty but for function. The translators immediately began working. She looked around, eyes wide and unblinking, taking in the sky, the buildings, the people. Her breathing was fast. Her hands shook. Then she raised one hand and pointed, not at the officials, not at the cameras, not at the waiting transport, but at a distant apartment building, visible beyond the field. The translator device crackled. I stay with him. Silence fell across the field. Officials exchanged looks. The lead diplomat stepped forward carefully and spoke in a calm voice. "Welcome to Earth. We are happy to host you. We can take you to the prepared residence." The alien girl shook her head. The lights on her skin flickered faster. "No, with him." The translator hesitated, then added more words as her emotional state spiked. "Proximity required. I remain." Security systems activated quietly. Scientists whispered. No one knew who him was. Miles away, inside that apartment building, a human named Daniel Cross was eating reheated noodles and watching an old documentary. He was 32, average height, average build, with no military background and no important job. He worked as a systems technician for a power grid company. He had not volunteered for any alien program. He did not know that at this moment, his life had already changed. Back at the landing field, officials tried again. "Can you identify the individual you are referring to?" She nodded and touched the side of her head. A soft pulse of light moved outward. Data poured into the systems. A face appeared on the main screen. Daniel Cross stared back at them, frozen in a paused video frame, a fork halfway to his mouth. Confusion turned into disbelief. "Why him?" someone whispered. The alien girl's breathing slowed slightly as she looked at the screen. "Stable signal," she said. "Chosen." Within an hour, Daniel's apartment door was knocked on by people who looked far more serious than anyone he had ever met. He was escorted, confused and nervous, into a secured vehicle. No one explained much. They just kept saying, "Please remain calm," and "You are not in trouble." When he arrived at a temporary facility near the landing field, he was led into a simple room with glass walls. Inside, the alien girl sat on the floor, knees drawn to her chest. Her glow was dimmer now, uneven. The moment Daniel stepped inside, something changed. The lights on her skin smoothed out. Her breathing slowed. She lifted her head and looked directly at him. Officials watched closely from the other side of the glass. Sensors spiked, then settled. She stood and walked toward him without hesitation, stopping less than an arm's length away. Daniel froze. "Hi," he said weakly. She tilted her head, studying him. "Confirmed," she said. "Signal source." "Signal?" Daniel asked. She moved closer and sat down again, this time beside him. Not touching, but close enough that he could feel warmth. Presence reduces instability. Daniel looked helplessly at the glass wall. "I don't know what's happening." Neither did anyone else. Doctors and scientists ran tests for hours. Every time Daniel was asked to leave the room, the alien girl's condition worsened. Her skin flickered violently. Her heart rate increased. When he returned, everything stabilized again. Eventually, the lead scientist admitted the truth. "We don't know why, but she seems dependent on you." Daniel rubbed his face. "I didn't sign up for this." "She didn't either," the diplomat replied quietly. That night, Daniel was taken back to his apartment under guard. The alien girl came with him. The moment they entered the space, she relaxed completely. She walked slowly, touching the walls, the furniture, the window. She stood beside Daniel as he awkwardly showed her where to sit. "This is temporary," he said, more to himself than to her. She looked at him. Duration undefined. The news exploded by morning. Headlines argued. Commentators speculated. Some called it a security risk. Others called it manipulation. A few joked about it, turning it into a strange meme. Daniel did not laugh. The alien girl rarely spoke, but she followed him everywhere. She sat near him when he ate. She stayed beside him when he slept, resting on the floor at first, then eventually on a chair pulled close. When he moved too far away, she grew anxious. He learned her name through the translator. It did not translate well into human language, but the closest meaning was one who anchors. Her species, called the Lithari, was ancient and advanced. They had conquered disease, scarcity, and most internal conflict. What they had lost long ago was something humans took for granted: connection. The Lithari did not form close bonds. They communicated efficiently, logically, without emotional depth. Their minds were strong but fragile under pressure. But stress did not drive them forward. It shut them down. The girl, sent as an observer, had been exposed to Earth's noise, chaos, and emotional intensity. Her systems overloaded, until she sensed Daniel. No one understood why him specifically. Tests showed nothing special about his biology, no unusual brain patterns, no hidden talents. But when he was near, her mind stayed steady. Daniel tried to treat her like a person, not a problem. He explained simple things. He talked about his job, his childhood, the city. He complained about rent prices. He joked badly. She listened. Sometimes she smiled, just slightly, like she was testing the expression. Late one night, as Daniel sat on his couch, exhausted, she spoke softly. "You do not leave."
"I'm not planning to," he replied.
"Good," she said. "When you are present, the noise stops." Daniel looked at her glowing skin, at the fragile calm she carried. For the first time, he felt less like a hostage and more like something else, a responsibility. Outside his apartment, the galaxy watched, and slowly, quietly, it began to realize that humans were not what it thought they were. The days after the alien girl moved in were not calm. They were quiet in strange ways, loud in others, and full of watching eyes that Daniel could never fully forget. Government agents stayed outside the building at all times. Cameras were placed in nearby streets. Drones hovered far above, silent and careful. Inside the apartment, however, everything felt small and human. The walls were thin, the furniture was old. The air smelled like coffee and dust. The alien girl stayed close. She followed Daniel from room to room, not touching him, but never letting the distance grow too large. When he brushed his teeth, she stood near the doorway. When he cooked, she sat at the small table and watched every movement with deep focus. When he worked on his laptop, she sat beside him, legs folded, glow steady and soft. Her presence no longer scared him. What scared him was how normal it started to feel. Scientists came every day. They spoke gently and asked many questions. They brought small devices to measure air, sound, and light. They asked Daniel to move to different rooms while they watched her reaction. Every time he went too far, her glow flickered and her breathing changed. When he returned, everything settled. "It is not fear," one scientist said quietly. "It's like balance." The alien girl listened to these talks, but she rarely spoke. When she did, her words were simple. "Distance causes noise. she said once. Noise causes failure. Daniel frowned. Failure of what? She touched her chest lightly. Me. That night, Daniel slept badly. He dreamed of falling, of reaching for something solid that kept slipping away. When he woke up, he found her sitting on the floor beside the bed, her back against the wall, eyes closed. Her glow pulsed slowly, matching his breathing. He felt a strange tightness in his chest. During the second week, the Lithari delegation arrived in orbit. Their ship was massive and silent, a smooth shape that reflected Earth's light like glass. Messages flowed between governments. Agreements were rewritten. New rules were made every hour. The Lithari wanted their observer back. They did not ask kindly. They claimed the situation was unstable. They said emotional contamination was occurring. They warned that allowing one human to influence a Lithari mind could cause long-term damage. Daniel listened to the meeting through a screen while the alien girl sat beside him. She is not an object, Daniel said, surprising himself. She's a person. The lead Lithari speaker paused for a long moment before responding. She is an observer unit. The alien girl looked up at the screen. Her glow dimmed. I am not broken, she said softly. I function. The room went silent. Lithari culture did not allow emotional defense. That statement alone caused confusion among them. The humans asked for time. That time was not peaceful. As days passed, reports came in from Lithari scientists. Other Lithari on the ship were experiencing problems. Long exposure to Earth, even from orbit, caused stress reactions. Their decision-making slowed. Arguments lasted longer than expected. Simple systems needed constant adjustment. They did not understand why. Daniel noticed changes in the alien girl as well. She began asking more questions. Why do humans speak when silence would be efficient? Why do you repeat stories you already know? Why do you sit near others even when no task requires it? Daniel answered as best he could. Because it feels better, he said once. Because we like it. Because being alone too long hurts. She processed this carefully. One evening, the power went out. The apartment fell into darkness. Outside, the city lights flickered and died. A storm rumbled far away. Daniel sighed and stood up to find a flashlight. The alien girl froze. Her glow spiked, then flickered wildly. She stood quickly and moved close to him. Closer than ever before. Her breathing became sharp and uneven. Hey, Daniel said, trying to stay calm. It's okay. Just a blackout. System failure, she said, voice shaking. Multiple variables lost. Daniel gently sat down on the couch and held his hands out, not touching her, but open. Sit. Just breathe. She hesitated, then sat beside him. The glow slowly calmed as his voice continued. Steady and normal. He talked about the storm, about how power outages happen sometimes, about how it always came back. After several minutes, her glow stabilized. Outside, generators kicked in. The lights returned. The alien girl looked at him.
You reduce fear without control.
Daniel swallowed. We do that to each other. The incident changed everything. The next day, Lithari scientists requested a direct test. They wanted to see if the effect could be reproduced. Carefully, with many safeguards, they brought another Lithari observer to Earth. The second observer lasted 7 minutes. Separated from humans, the observer showed rising stress. When placed near a group of humans, the effect was instant. Calm returned. Cognitive function improved. Communication became smoother. The data was impossible to ignore. The Lithari had built their civilization on logic, but logic now pointed to something they had dismissed for thousands of years. Humans were not weak because they were emotional. They were strong because of it. Daniel became the center of attention he never wanted. Reports named him Subject Anchor. Analysts tried to find what made him different. The answer was uncomfortable. Nothing did. He was ordinary, which meant any human could do this. The alien girl stayed close. Always. She began mimicking human behaviors without realizing it. She sat when others sat. She waited when others waited. She even tried smiling more often. "You are changing?" Daniel said one afternoon. "Yes," she replied. "Adaptation improves survival. Does it improve happiness?" She paused. "I do not know, but I prefer this state." News spread across the galaxy. Some species were curious. Others were afraid. A species that stabilized minds simply by being near was dangerous in ways no weapon could be. That fear turned into pressure. One night, Daniel was informed that the Lithari Council planned to forcibly retrieve the alien girl within 48 hours. She listened calmly. "They will try to separate us," she said. Daniel felt anger rise for the first time. They don't get to decide that alone. She looked at him, eyes glowing softly. "You would resist." He did not answer right away. Then he nodded. "Yeah, I would." The alien girl reached out and touched his arm for the first time. The glow settled into a warm, steady light. "Then I chose correctly," she said. Above Earth, the Lithari ship shifted position, and for the first time, the galaxy faced the idea that humans were not just participants in the universe. They were anchors. The countdown began quietly. No alarms sounded. No public warnings were made. But inside secure rooms, screens showed the same number ticking down. 48 hours until the Lithari would take their observer back. Daniel felt the pressure in small ways. More guards outside. More calls he was not allowed to answer. More careful words from officials who no longer pretended this was temporary. Inside the apartment, the alien girl sensed it before anyone told her. "The noise is returning," she said softly. Daniel looked up from the table where he was pretending to work. "What noise?" "Anticipation," she replied. Conflict without motion. He did not fully understand, but he felt it too. A tightness in the air. A feeling that something was leaning forward, ready to fall. Scientists came less often now. When they did, their questions were shorter. They already had their data. Humans stabilized Lithari minds. Proximity mattered. Emotional presence mattered. What they did not know was what to do with that truth. The alien girl had changed more in the past few days than in all the time before. She spoke more freely now. She reacted faster. Her glow no longer flickered unless something was truly wrong. She also began to move away from Daniel more often. At first, it was only a few steps, then across the room, then into the hallway, while he stayed inside. Each time she returned on her own, calm but thoughtful. "You are testing limits," Daniel said one evening. "Yes," she replied. "I am learning where I end." "And?" She sat beside him on the couch. "I do not end where I believed." That answer stayed with him. Above Earth, the Lithari ship prepared for action. Not military action, but authority action. They believed they were correcting a mistake. Humans were interfering with Lithari development. Allowing this bond to continue would weaken their species. The Lithari Council did not understand one thing. The alien girl was no longer the same observer they had sent. On the morning of the retrieval, Daniel woke early. The apartment felt different. Too still. She stood by the window looking out at the city. "They are coming today," she said without turning. Daniel nodded. "Yeah? I know. They will not ask you," she continued. "They will not ask me." He clenched his jaw. "We won't make it easy." She finally looked at him. Her glow was steady, calm, brighter than ever before. I do not want resistance that causes harm. So what do we do? He asked. She stepped closer. We show them truth. Hours later, a delegation arrived, not in ships over cities, not with force, but with quiet confidence. The Thari envoys entered a secured human facility. Humans were present, watching, recording. Daniel and the alien girl were brought into the room together. The lead Lithari stepped forward. Tall, smooth, expression unreadable. Observer unit, it said. You will return with us now. She did not move. I decline, she said simply. The word hit the room like a shockwave. You are malfunctioning, the envoy replied. No, she said. I am integrated. Daniel felt his heart pound. This bond is damaging, the Lithari said. You rely on an external presence. She tilted her head. So do you.
You rely on systems, on structure.
On silence. The envoy paused. She continued. Humans rely on each other. They survive because they share burden. That is inefficiency, the envoy said. And yet, she replied, they endure conditions that would break us. The room grew tense. A human scientist stepped forward. We can demonstrate, she said carefully. The test was simple, but risky. A Lithari volunteer entered the room, separated from humans by a transparent barrier. Stress readings rose almost immediately. Cognitive response slowed. Confusion followed. Then the barrier was opened. Humans entered the space. Not touching, just present. Standing nearby, talking softly. When? Within seconds, the readings stabilized. The Lithari envoy watched in silence. This is not control, the alien girl said. This is resonance. The envoy turned to Daniel. You are ordinary. Daniel nodded. Yeah. I am. That makes this worse, the envoy replied. No, the alien girl said firmly. It makes it universal. The room stayed silent for a long time. Finally, the envoy spoke again. If we allow this, our species will change. Yes, she said, so will yours. The council retreated to deliberate. Hours passed. Daniel sat beside the alien girl in a quiet room. For the first time since this began, he was not surrounded by cameras.
Are you scared?
He asked. Yes, she said. But fear is no longer noise. It is information. He smiled slightly. Welcome to being human adjacent. She watched him closely. I am not human. No, he agreed. But you're not alone either. When the council returned, their decision shocked everyone. They would not force the retrieval. Instead, they proposed something unthinkable. A trial program. Human presence aboard Lithari ships, not as commanders, not as advisors, as companions. The reaction across the galaxy was immediate. Some species demanded access. Others banned humans entirely from their space. Fear spread faster than understanding. Humans, for once, did not rush forward. They hesitated. Because they understood the cost. To be an anchor meant carrying weight that was not yours. Daniel was asked to be the first. He refused. I didn't choose this for the galaxy, he said. Doe, I chose to help one person. The alien girl stood beside him. That is why you are suitable. In the end, a compromise was reached. Daniel would remain on Earth. The alien girl would stay with him. Together, they would be proof. As the Lithari ship pulled back from Earth orbit, something changed within it. Stress levels dropped. Communication improved. Not because humans were there, but because the idea of humans was. Down on Earth, Daniel walked home with the alien girl beside him. The city moved around them, loud and alive. "You could have gone?" he said quietly. She looked at him. "I am where I function best." He nodded. "Me too." Far beyond Earth, species began to ask a dangerous question. If humans could stabilize minds, what else could they do? The galaxy did not change all at once. It shifted slowly, like a great body turning in sleep, unsure whether to wake or remain still. After the Lithari Council's decision became public, messages flooded Earth. Some were polite requests. Others were demands. A few were warnings. Humanity was no longer seen as harmless. Daniel felt this change in small ways. The guards outside his building were replaced with stronger ones. The drones flew lower now. Officials spoke more carefully around him, as if every word carried weight. Inside the apartment, life continued. The alien girl still followed him from room to room, but now there was a difference. She no longer stayed only because she needed to. Sometimes she stayed because she wanted to. She watched human news with him, even though most of it made little sense to her. She asked about jokes she did not understand. She listened when he complained about work, about stress, about how tired he felt. "You absorb too much," she told him one evening. He laughed weakly. That's kind of her thing. Her glow dimmed slightly.
"It is inefficient."
"Yeah," he said, "but it keeps us going." The trial program began quietly.
Humans were invited to Lithari facilities in small numbers. Not soldiers. Not leaders. Ordinary people. Nurses. Engineers. Teachers. People used to being around others. The results were immediate. Lithari teams worked longer without collapse. Disputes resolved faster. Panic events dropped sharply. The presence of humans did not make them less logical. It made them more stable. Other species noticed. A trading coalition requested human support units for long negotiations. A research collective asked for humans to be present during high-risk experiments. A distant species, long isolated due to mental fragility, sent a single message that read only, "Can you come?" Humans hesitated again. Not because they could not help, but because helping changed things. But Daniel watched these events unfold on a screen while sitting on his couch. The alien girl sat beside him, her shoulder almost touching his. "They are afraid of you," she said. He shook his head. "They're afraid of what they might need." She considered this. Needing others is vulnerability. "Yeah," Daniel replied, "but it's also survival." The pressure grew. Some species began to restrict human access, fearing dependence. Others tried to bind humans with contracts, offering protection in exchange for constant presence. Human leaders argued among themselves. Was it right to send people into the galaxy just to stabilize others? Was it safe? Was it fair? Daniel was asked to speak at a closed meeting. He did not want to. "I'm not a leader," he said. "No," the official replied. "You're proof." Daniel stood in a quiet room filled with screens and distant faces. He spoke simply. "We didn't train for this," he said. "We don't even understand it fully. We just stay. We listen. We care. And somehow that helps." One delegate asked, "What happens when humans leave?" Daniel paused. "That's the risk. You can't replace connection with presence alone. If you rely on us without changing, you'll fall again." The alien girl watched from the corner of the room. Her glow was steady, thoughtful. That night, she spoke more than usual. "My people believe dependence is weakness," she said. "Now they fear it, do you?" Daniel asked. She shook her head slowly. I fear denial more. Not all reactions were peaceful. A powerful species coalition declared humans a destabilizing influence. They accused humanity of emotional manipulation, of passive control. They demanded limits. When humans refused, the coalition acted. They cut trade routes. They blocked communication relays. They isolated systems where humans were present. The first crisis hit a research station near a dying star. Without human presence, the mixed species crew began to fail. Stress rose. Decisions conflicted. Systems broke down. A human technician was nearby, on a transport ship, waiting for clearance that never came. The crew requested help. The coalition refused. Daniel watched the feed with clenched fists. "They're going to die," he said. The alien girl stood beside him. Fear is guiding them. Human leadership faced a choice. They sent the technician anyway. The coalition protested. Threats were made. But when the human arrived at the station, everything changed. The crew stabilized. Repairs were made. The station survived. The galaxy watched. Fear turned into uncertainty. The alien girl began to understand something deeper. Humans did not force their role. They accepted it when others asked. One evening, as Daniel sat quietly, she spoke in a softer tone than he had ever heard. "When I first chose you," she said, "it was instinct. Survival? And now?" he asked. "Now," she replied, "it is preference." He smiled, tired but genuine. The coalition's power weakened. Species within it began to question the isolation. Some broke away quietly and contacted humans directly. The galaxy fractured not into war, but into choice. Be alone and afraid, or accept help and change. Daniel received a message one morning that made his hands shake. The Lithari Council requested to speak with the alien girl alone. She looked at him calmly. "I will return. For how long?" he asked. "I do not know," she said, "but I will come back." The meeting lasted hours. When she returned, her glow was brighter than before. "They asked me to teach," she said. "Teach what?" Daniel asked. "How to remain myself while connected to others." He nodded slowly. "That's a big job."
"Yes," she agreed.
"But I am not alone." Outside Earth, ships move differently now. More slowly, more carefully, as if the galaxy itself was learning patience. Daniel stood on his balcony one night, looking up at the stars. The alien girl stood beside him. "We didn't ask for this," he said. "No," she replied. "We didn't ask for this," he said. "No," she replied. "But you stayed!" He looked at her. "So did you." She met his gaze. That is how change begins. Far across space, species listened. Some still resisted, but many leaned closer. And humanity, still ordinary, still imperfect, found itself standing at the center of something it never planned to become. Not rulers, not saviors, but something the universe had been missing for a very long time. Time did what it always did. It moved forward, slow and unstoppable, carrying change with it. The galaxy did not collapse. It did not fall into chaos. It did not become peaceful overnight. Instead, it learned. Human presence spread carefully, not as a force, but as an offer. Humans did not arrive in fleets. They arrived one at a time. They sat in rooms. They listened. They stayed. Some species accepted. Some refused. Some tried and failed, learning that connection could not be rushed. Daniel remained on Earth. That decision shaped everything. He returned to work, though his job was different now. He advised teams on how to support humans sent into space. He spoke to people who were afraid not of aliens, but of responsibility. You don't have to fix anyone, he told them. You just have to be there. The alien girl stayed with him, always. She still followed him closely, but now she also stood on her own. She traveled to meetings. She spoke to her people. She spoke to others. She had a name now that humans could pronounce. She chose it herself. Leah. It means connection, she explained, in your language. Daniel smiled. It fits. The Lithari changed slowly, very slowly. They built shared spaces. They allowed silence to break. They permitted presence without purpose. Human companions were no longer seen as tools, but as partners. The galaxy noticed. Other species adapted in their own ways. Some developed their own forms of connection. Others invited humans not to stay forever, but to teach. There were mistakes. There were losses. Not every attempt worked. Humans learned their limits too. Being an anchor was heavy. Some humans returned home exhausted. Some needed help themselves. Humanity realized it had to care for its own as much as it cared for others. That, too, became part of the lesson. Years passed. Daniel stood older now, lines around his eyes, hair touched by gray. His life was still simple. His apartment had changed little, though it felt fuller. Leah stood beside him, her glow steady and warm. She no longer needed constant proximity, but she chose it often. One evening, a message arrived from deep space. A system long considered unreachable had made contact. Its species had survived in isolation, afraid of emotional collapse. They had watched humanity from afar. They sent one sentence: "We are ready to try." Daniel and Leah sat together reading the message. "They will need patience," Daniel said.
Yes, Leah replied, and kindness. Humanity sent a small team.
Not leaders, not experts, just people. The first meeting was tense. The alien species trembled at closeness, but humans waited. They spoke softly. They shared stories. And slowly, the trembling stopped. The galaxy reached a turning point, not a moment of victory, a moment of understanding. Humanity was reclassified again. No longer just anchors. They were called companions. Daniel did not care about titles. One night he and Leah stood on the roof of his building, looking up at the stars. The city hummed below them. "Do you regret choosing me?" he asked. She thought for a long time before answering.
No, she said. You were ordinary.
"That made you safe?" He laughed. "That might be the nicest insult I've ever heard." She tilted her head. "You taught me that ordinary does not mean small." They stood in silence, comfortable and shared. Far away, conflicts still existed. Fear still existed. But now, so did a new option. Stay. Listen. Connect. The universe adjusted around that idea, and Daniel, just one human among billions, understood something simple and powerful. Humanity did not conquer the stars. The stars leaned in.